But anyway, we had extremists come up to Lewiston's Kennedy Park October 1st. And I knew immediately when I saw the images that they didn't have a permit because they were within the restricted zone of City Hall. A few years back, I can't remember when, but I was with a group of folks when we held an event at the steps of City Hall. I think it was Mayor McDonald saying racist comments about people in Somali community. And we show up in numbers. And I think soon after that, they had changed the ordinance. So anyway, I canvassed downtown Lewiston to talk to businesses and agencies and things like that to let them know how to identify extremists. I had a feeling that they didn't park in parking garages. And I also found out that they came out from the Spruce Street, Park Street side, which was significant because the police station's right there. So anyway, I ended up going into City Hall, and there was like this office space where there's a window and there's a door, there's a couple doors. And the person that processed the applications for the city, I was trying to inform, like, did you know there was extremists at Kennedy Park, this and that. I think it was about 10 or 10:30 that morning. And there was another woman with her that's worked at the City Hall for a long time. And she stands up and she starts talking to somebody. Sorry, I have an empty stomach, so I have the hiccups a little. And she started talking to somebody, and I said, who is that? And I mind you, I have 4 masks on. I have a bandana. I'm wearing all black. I'm at the window, and I'm like, who is that? And she says, oh, it's Brian, smiling, and I said, Brian who? And I just wanted to hear the name because I already knew that it was retired Chief Brian O'Malley that she was talking to. And she asked him, did you know about this? And he acknowledged that he did. And at that time, when I had the other person at the window, I was popping off questions. But anyway, I heard, the conversation, and I said, oh, he knew. That's why he's here, to disrupt me. That's why he showed up, to shut me up, and to hear it from his narrative, I guess, apparently. So I start popping off questions, and I'm like, did they have a permit before, for this assemblance, blah, 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 going off, popping off questions, trying to get answers. And she's like, no. I was like, oh, goodness. So I'm a little pumped about that. But anyway, I think it's kind of significant. The police officers retired end up getting employed at the City Hall. It's a kind of continuation of the generational oppression of people in community that don't look like them, especially. I think also there's other elements that are pretty significant, but this is part of the thing and the reason why people can't stand me, because I'm that little punk kid that doesn't mind talking about things, confronting things, asking questions, and doing it on my own even. So I know these are really challenging times, and they're really scary times. There was one business that I walked into, and I had started feeling visceral reactions, and it's been a while since I felt those reactions, since I've fled my offender, and I've felt them before. My body screaming you're just probably not in safe space here. At first I thought it was panic attacks, but I'll explain that in a minute. But anyway, when I was walking towards the counter, I could feel the growing feeling or whatever. So I started talking to the gentleman, and I thought the best way for me is if I'm feeling nervous is just to kind of name it. So then I feel better about it and just kind of put it away, and I dealt with it, I said it, I stated it, let's move on, and I feel better about it. So I ended up talking to him, and I said, I'm a little bit nervous being here right now because I know your other location sells Nazi contraband. And when I started to tell them about the assemblance that happened and wanting to give them information and asking if it's okay if I can return later to hand out a flyer to staff only so they could know how to identify extremists, he started to say to me very quickly, "Oh, we don't do politics here." And I immediately responded, because I'm used to this, combating it online. I'm used to combating supremacy online. What typically happens is there's a few different tactics that online trolls work, and people in community, abusers especially. It's like textbook. And one of the ways is politicizing the discussion of supremacy to minimize its impact, to not acknowledge that supremacy is like the driving force of why things are there, why people are talking about it to begin with, or that somebody could have been reeled in to repeat the language, almost like being indoctrined how to respond to a conversation of supremacy. And so politicizing supremacy is one of the tactics. Also calling it a conspiracy theory is another tactic, because it's not. I mean, they're active, they're recruiting, they're doing the stuff. They're doing the assembling and the rallying and things like that, and spreading the message of hate, and other tactics. But we can get into that. I can get into that later. But this is the stuff, it was like that moment and going there and like organizing in community that was like really affirming for me. I already know my life plan. I already know what I'm here to do. It doesn't matter what happens to me. It doesn't matter where I end up. It doesn't matter where I'm living. Doesn't matter. I am doing this work. Doesn't matter. It's going to happen. I know my life plan. And so with the shits aligning, I'm like, wow, this is like concerning, very concerning. And I'm very late in the game. I should have started, right in the beginning of COVID. But sometimes survivorship and survival has to be prioritized for people, So anyway, that's the kind of stuff I do. That's the kind of stuff I look down upon. And so I ended up going to the city council meeting soon after that, and I wrote my testimony. And there was two things that I wanted to get out that I knew the city hall could stop the whole testimony. They could end it. They could cut me off. They could cut my mic off. They could cut the video off. It didn't matter. One of those statements was saying somebody on this panel right now sells Nazi contraband. Another one was telling of when I went to City Hall and that the retired chief, Brian O'Malley, came around the corner on the other side of the wall to disrupt me. What happened at City Hall was that the mayor cut me off, and he's going to cut me off because they had passed an ordinance, not something that I was involved with, but a former person that I was friends with that ended up stalking me and threatening to kill me and my roommate, and also called us the N-word when I'm Mexican and my roommate was Puerto Rican. If you ever question it around supremacy, sometimes those are indicators. But anyway, that person ended up putting the mayor on blast, and it was from their efforts or whatever. I wouldn't even call them efforts. I don't even know what it was, but it was that thing that they were pursuing that made the city change the way they do testimony. And so once somebody talks about staff or anything kind of like they don't want to talk about city councilors or mayor, and if there's complaints, they will shut down the conversation. So you have 3 minutes to say a testimony, and you have to allow time for mess ups. You have to allow time for people cutting you off. You have to allow time in case you cough or whatever. It doesn't matter. 3 minutes is the limit. And so I said the Nazi contraband, and I also said the thing about Brian O'Malley. So on video, for people that aren't familiar with the way council is run, or like the expectation, they will just see me getting cut off. which works to my benefit. It works good. I mean, it's what happened, you know what I mean? But it just looks good. And that's okay. You know, I need some kind of attention and highlight to the issues, you know.